Welcome to Piping Talks. Today we have a special guest, a drummer, first drummer on the show. I know it's Piping Talks, but I'm a drummer and I'm very excited to be talking to a drummer today. So we have Scott Birrell from Scotland originally. We played together a few years. We'll talk about it. We played together at Boghall for a few years and just been good friendship over the years. And I'm excited to talk more about how he started drumming and his life journey. So Scott, how are you doing?
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
Sitting here in down under Christchurch, New Zealand. Now, like you say, originally from Scotland, but been living here since, well, certainly on this side of the world since 2008. Bit of a stint down in the deep south of New Zealand and Invercargill, then jumped over to Aussie for a little stint and recently returned.
Nice.
Drumming away here in the Southern Hemisphere, teaching. I've been teaching since I left Scotland and playing. So life's good.
Nice. Let's talk a bit about how you got started. So you say you're from Scotland, about north of Edinburgh, is that right? Then how did you start? How did you pick up the sticks?
Yeah, that's right. From Fife, the Kingdom of Fife. Originally, I started from my grandfather. He played in pipe bands all his days, and he got me involved from an early age. I started when I was about 6 years old in the local town band, Burnt Island and District. Played there for about 10 years. I came through a sort of novice juvenile program with a lot of kids in the town. Burnt Island is a small town of about 5,000 people. But through my childhood, the pipe band was sort of thriving at the time and still is to this day, actually. What
do you think that it was such a small town and the band was like thriving?
I think there's a fair bit of history there with the band, so there's a lot of pride. For example, my father, he's still heavily involved in that band. I think through generations, people stay involved and it means something to them. To small community town band, so perhaps there's a bit more heart in the whole feel of that pipe band. Like any band, it goes through cycles. Right now it's strong. When I was there, it was strong. Perhaps in between that, maybe it wasn't through periods. But I was very fortunate. There was just a lot of youth involved, and we took out lots of championships, competing quite strongly through the novice and juvenile grades at the time. But after 10 years, it went through a lull. I suppose I was about 15, 16-year-old, and a number of other kids were turning into young adults and leaving the town, going off to university. As a result, the band ended up not being able to compete. So those that wanted to continue competing, they moved on, and that was when I made a move to Boghall and Bathgate. My father approached Tom Brown at a competition one day, and that was the start of it. Really, I then started to go along to Tom's famous
why
garage.
Tom? It shouldn't be a question, but why Boghall and Tom in the first place?
Well, I guess I knew, as well as my father and grandfather, that I still had a lot to learn in terms of being able to compete at the top level. I'd only ever competed in sort of juvenile under-18 competition grades. So there was nothing really in Fife at the time. Dysart and Dundonald were sort of around, but going through a lot of change, and there wasn't really anywhere that I felt that I could go and still be taught well. There may be bands that I could just go and join, but it would just be a matter of learning the music and playing. Whereas I knew that if I went to Boghall and Bathgate under the tutelage of Tom, and laterally Gordon, there was a system there that I felt like I'd be able to really learn from, and it would develop my playing further. So I grabbed hold of the opportunity when Tom said yes. My dad used to take me along to his house, his garage for sessions twice a week.
The famous garage, wasn't it? I mean,
yeah,
a lot of great people went there.
there, yeah. And I was part of the Boghall Grade 2 band at the time.
Oh, right.
So yeah, that was under
Was Tarfickin, or a bunch of people that went to Tarfickin afterwards?
Correct. Yeah. So I played a season with Callum in the Grade 2 band, and then unfortunately the pipe major of that band decided to leave at the end of the season, and before we knew it, we didn't have a pipe corps. The drum corps stuck together and moved to Tarfickin. I had to sort of ask myself some pretty serious questions around why I came to Boghall, that whole methodology around the move, and was it the right thing for me to go with the corps? And as hard a decision as it was at the time, because I was the only one that opted not to. I think I made the right call to stay in the Boghall organisation, and then continued lessons with Tom, but then started to head along to Grade 1 practices with Gordon. And that was
it tough? Like the move from
because I was only just in the movement. I hadn't even done a whole year. I'd done a season, but I don't think I'd done a year. So I was just getting to grips with the style change as well. As you know, like the Boghall style is quite unique, and I was just starting to come to grips with that, and then all of a sudden, the big jump between, well, not a big jump, but like a considerable jump between Grade 2 and Grade 1.
I mean, that's top of Grade 1 too, right? So it's not just Grade 2 to Grade 1; it's that the Grade 2 to top 3, 4 drum corps, right? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so my first year was kind of in and out. I mean, I played a couple of competitions. I think I might have played one major. But to be honest, only because Gordon never had enough bodies. I don't think I should have been playing. That was it was like the Joanna's hornpipe medley at the time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that was also the year that the band had the pre-Worlds concert. Was it that year or the year before?
It's like the brass band, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Whitburn brass band, I think.
See, I had tons of scores, like a lot of scores. So just like, actually, it's probably the best way to integrate the band, because obviously you need bodies, you need to split scores, you need to split like teams, and so you got a shot and you got to learn a lot of scores right away.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I was kind of all of a sudden my music folder went from a dozen pages to 16 pages. So yeah, that's right. Just kind of thrown in there, just soaking it all up. Played in the concert. I played a couple of sets. So it was great to just sort of be part of that band, that drum corps through that year, where I wasn't necessarily a counted player, but I was in there, like working hard, and then got in properly for the following season. And then that was it, really. I played with Boghall for a good solid 10 years. So it was kind of like a decade with Burnt Island and then a decade with Boghall.
You're a band member. You're a good band member.
I've done a bit of band hopping since then, mate.
Yeah. No, that's impressive. Like 10 years in the band. I mean, that's I don't know that many people that have done that. It's funny you mentioned that the first competition or the first year you were like, I shouldn't have played. Like I hear that from other people that I talk to too. Like their first competition is like, I don't even know how I got a shot, but that gives you the extra boost afterwards. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Nice. And so 10 years at Boghall. And what was your favorite memory out of those 10 years that you've done with the band?
Oh, it would have to be when you were part of it, Glenn. I mean, it was 2012. Winning the Worlds would have to be the standout. Winning the Worlds as the drum corps.
Right.
You know, that 2011, 2012 period, I think, I mean, I can't talk any further than that because I never came back after that year to play. But the core was just humming then. Yeah, it was a great time to be part of it. We had the concert in 2012 as well, which was cool, stressful at times, but cool. You know, to have all that hype around the season and then walking away with the Worlds at the end of it. That season, that Worlds win would be the highlight.
Yeah, that's probably where you were enjoying. Actually, you were already in New Zealand at the time, right?
That's right. Yeah. So in that 10-year period of Boghall, I spent 5 years in just over 5 years. So that was in Scotland, and then in Invercargill, where I moved to in 2008. I was still travelling back and forth each year to play with Boghall for usually about 6 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. So it's I
want to talk more about that because, you know, a lot of the time you're rather a guest player and you flying, you know, like myself was, and Robert in a midsection, like just flying in. But you've had experience having both, where you were based in Glasgow and you were also traveling to band practice from New Zealand. So it's very interesting. And when you were in Glasgow, you actually joined the RSAMD, or it's changed name now, but the Conservatoire, right?
That's right.
You did 4 years there?
Yep. I did 4 years. Yeah, studying Scottish music.
Nice. And then you were, it was other people that were there. Tano, who was in your class? Like, how was the school? Like, was it something that, you know, okay, you're coming from the Great Kingdom of Fife, you go to Boghall, and then you're like, I'm really enjoying drumming. I'm really enjoying, you know, pipe band. I could make it my career. And then you started at the school. Yeah.
I mean, interesting story there. I finished school and actually started an apprenticeship as an architect technician in Edinburgh. Yeah. Not very many people know that because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. It was just like, what am I going to do? And it was an opportunity. And I never really wanted to go to university. School was never my thing. Study, just wasn't. I just wanted to play drums and play golf. There were two things in my life that I loved.
Nice. That's what you do now. That's perfect.
Pretty much. Yeah. I've managed to, after 15 or so years, like wind it all back to where I was.
Do the two things.
So I started this apprenticeship, but then I also applied for the RSAMD, well, now called the Royal Conservatoire, to do the Scottish music degree course. And I was a bit of a late entry, I suppose. Got a phone call from Brian McNeil, the head of course at the time, offering me a spot. And it's like the course started in 2-3 weeks or something like that. So, they were obviously desperate. So I basically went and then I had sort of 24 hours to decide what I'm doing, and went into my work the next day and handed my notice in, and they were pretty annoyed because
you had just started.
And I was really lucky to get that job. Like, there was one position, and I believe at the time there was something like 25 to 30 applicants for that job, and I got it. And then the next thing, 2.5 months later, I'm leaving. So I did feel a bit rotten about that, but I mean, it was the right call for me because I knew that I was never going to be an architect long term. I may have made more money, but that's I'm for sure way happier. I used to go into that office and just doodle around on a computer, it was just, I knew that it was never for me. But you know what I'm like on computers.
You can say it now. They're probably not going to be listening to this. But.
MMA architects. That's what they were called. If they're listening, I can remember them.
Really nice little
in fact, connection with Tano. Tano's father used to deal with MMA architects. His father was in property, He used to. It was a bit funny when I started there, and Tano found out. He was like, "Man, my dad knows those guys." Anyway, getting back.
Wait, so you're a friend with Tano at that point already?
Yeah, well, Tano and I, we knew each other through the National Youth Pipe Band. So we knew each other before university. We competed against each other. He was George Watson's, I was Burnt Island. Like we probably knew of each other.
You were beating him in solos and stuff like that, right? That's what you just said.
Whipping his backside there. There's always been. That in terms of bands, we would compete against each other. We met each other properly. We auditioned. I'm pretty sure, we auditioned together for the youth band right at the very start. There was a handful of us that all kind of stuck with it, really. David Ross, Davy Henderson, Chris Taylor, Tano. We were kind of like the five right at the start. Willie Quinn.
On. For those that I know we mentioned Tano, but Tano is a snare drummer for SFU now and played for Shot for many years. And it's funny that you just mentioned Davy Henderson, who is now leading drummer of it used to be Scots College. I don't even know the name, but So that was the youth band. Good core, pretty solid core. And now that you look at all the names,
it was great. Yeah, we were all pretty tight through that, and also through uni. So going back on your question in terms of who, there was Tano at university. There was Davy Henderson, Stevie Nelson, Stevie Graham was there in my first year. I think he was in his final year. We used to have group classes with Jim Kilpatrick. So Jim was the principal drumming instructor at the academy at the time, at the Royal Conservatoire.
Sounds more fancy, yeah.
We'd have one-on-one lessons with Jim and also one group lesson a week. And that was great, we'd all feed off each other. And one of my memories from that was Jim used to often bring in a Dremel meter where we just plunk it down on the table and pass it round. And it was as many singles as you could do in a minute.
And it would calculate it.
Yeah, and it would just it had like a little sensor, and it would digitally had a digital screen, so it was constantly counting. So we were all sitting there watching as Jim was getting over 1,000, and we were struggling to get to 850, 900.
Seriously? Who was the fastest? Obviously you've got Jim, but then who was after?
Jim by far. Stevie Graham was always very quick. He had like rocket hands, Stevie. And then after that, I don't really. I think it was a bit of a hit or a miss between me, Tano, Stevie Nelson, David. Was
it good fun? It must be hilarious. Like when you. If you're competitive,
It was. I mean, I think from time to time I probably give myself some good wrist strains and sore arms and stuff. Probably wasn't very good for me. But like you were, by the end of the minute, you were just like your face is
like a workout.
And yeah, totally.
What was your? I love that. I love to hear that. I think I've heard this story before, but. What was your favorite memory during those? Was it 4 years at the at uni?
Yeah.
Was this guys or just a story like what you just shared?
Yeah. Well, we were so we were more than just there was obviously more than pipe band music going on there. There was myself and Tano. We were in the same year level, which was pretty rare. Normally there would only be one snare drummer per year. We had about 4 or 5 pipers, and then I want to say 4 or 5 fiddle players, and a couple of accordions, a couple of clarsacks, Gaelic singers. In total, we probably had a year group of about 16. We were essentially a bit of a band. Every year we would go on tour. Year one was a tour of the Isle of Skye. Then there was a tour of the borders. There was a trip to Germany and Denmark. So every year building up to those tours, we would be in full rehearsal flow. We were putting on concerts, hour and a half long shows each night, different venues, and for those tours. So you can imagine there's a fair bit of rehearsal time goes in. We would socialise together. We're playing together. We're quite a tight group of 16. So for me, they were the highlights. Like those trips, lots of lots of great memories, a lot of carnage, to be honest, as well. Yeah, many people almost got kicked off the course because of stuff that went on. I managed to sort of escape a lot of that.
Stick through and made it to the end.
Somehow, much to folk like Tano's disgust, I think. Yeah, those tours, those trips were great. Like, just lots of music playing. We were on stage playing snare drum, playing drum kit, playing djembe, just lots of creative percussion, really. Like, growing up as a kid, I played drums. I played a bit of piano and clarinet through school as well. But in terms of drumming, it was just snare drum that I played. But going to the RSAMD, opened my eyes up a lot to Scottish music, and I started to dabble around in a lot of hand percussion, and picked up the
harmonica too. That's when you picked up the harmonica, isn't it?
No, I did have a harmonica, but nobody ever heard me play that. So those best years of my life was in Glasgow at uni. It really was. Like, when I reflect back, some great times, and met lots of great people. Most of my good friends are from that time, certainly through pipe bands. But those 4 years in Glasgow, met a lot of good people.
Because you're still very good friend with all of those guys, at least Dano, and it's so crazy how you went to school, but then you will compete, all summer because you were all playing with different bands. I mean, Tano and Davey were playing for Shots, and you were playing with Boghall. But it's it must have been just good friendship, but also good rivalry, and just kind of like
that's right. Yeah, I mean, it was. I was one of a few that went through the academy. I call it academy. There's so many names. There's RSAMD, which is the full abbreviated title. When I was there, we referred to it as the academy, but it's now known as you mentioned, the Royal Conservatoire. But I was one of a few that didn't end up playing with Shots. Like, Tano left Clan-Gregor, Davy Henderson left Clan-Gregor to join Shots, Davy Ross.
It was after, but
bringing Davy Ross into the scene, never actually went through the academy, but another good friend of ours.
That's right. Actually, now that I think about it,
he joined Shots. Stevie Nelson joined Shots. Stevie Graham joined Shots. So everyone that went through did, and by no pressure to do so. I want to be clear on that. Jim was never in there to poach, certainly in my eyes. But I was always quite proud of myself in a way for not jumping ship. I've always seen myself as quite a loyal band member, and unless there was strong reason to, then I would never leave a band. I actually feel as though I gained a lot more from staying put, because I was able to continue under the leadership of Gordon at Boghall, and also have 4 years tuition under Jim. And I got the best of both. I felt like there is a part of me that would love to have played for Jim, under Jim, at some point in my drumming career, but I don't know. I think loyalty probably in the end won in that side. And who knows? Maybe there wouldn't have been a spot for me at Shots anyway. But
I was going to say maybe he didn't poach you because we'll never know.
Jumping the gun. Maybe the right and only option was to stay put.
No, I'm sure not. But yeah, you're right. This is super interesting, and obviously, you have now so many people that just jump bands, and it's a lot more common for people to just change bands every 2-3 years. Where at that time, it was rare to have someone that would say 10 years and have all their friends, all of your friends were playing for another band. So that's pretty impressive. And then from there, you moved down to New Zealand. You got a job right after your uni, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the Southland Piping and Drumming Development Trust, it was in my final year of uni. There was a job ad, Tano, seen the ad, and he was already set up. He had the job lined up in Texas that he was moving to St. Thomas Episcopal. So he forwarded me the link, and I applied just in the nick of time before they closed application. And immediately I got a reply, and they were pretty excited and wanted to set up an interview. We did that. I remember it vividly in my apartment in Glasgow. There was similar sort of story to us. We got a bit of a mix-up in times in terms of us arranging this call.
Thanks for bringing it up. Jesus.
But thankfully, it was an error on their part. I was in the shower, and my girlfriend at the time, I think, was sort of kind of coming in and saying, "Hey, they're calling you now." What was supposed to be like a 7 a.m. call there, they were like expecting me on at 6 or something like that. Anyway, so I'm like frantically throwing a shirt on, tie. No trousers, just sit behind the computer. And bang, we're into it. So it was Alistair McGregor, who is on the board here for the RNZ PBA. He essentially formed the trust that I went to work for. On that panel that were interviewing me were Greg Wilson, who's a big name in the solo piping world, gold medalist, based here in Christchurch actually as well, and a couple of other guys, Quinton Wiley and Brendan Fairbairn, local Southlanders. So they were my interview panel, and fine interview, and it must have been fine because they then flew me out to do a 2-week stint through the national championships in March. So I came out and sort of met everyone, had a bit of a tune with the local band as well, and then had a handshake agreement with Alistair McGregor of I'll move out in September for 2 years. I basically went back to Glasgow, finished off my degree, and then shifted. I seen that the 2000 must have been the 2008 pipe band season through right through to Cowell. Cowell used to be the last one then.
That's right.
And then I moved out in September, right beginning of September of 2008. Yeah, and spent just shy of 5 years in Invercargill. So it was part of the the growth of that band essentially moving from grade 4 through to grade 1 in 5 seasons. So it was a pretty. Sorry.
Would you have would you do you think you would stay 5 years? Or it was New Zealand, did you ever think about New Zealand at all, or were you looking for a band a school or teaching job in Scotland?
I always wanted to travel. Australia and Canada were 2 countries that were always on my radar, but ultimately I had no money. So the minute I got offered a full-time gig, and it was in New Zealand, so I was thinking, well, let's take that and then see where that leads to. New Zealand's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Aussie. As it turned out, I started the job, and the job was great, so I just settled there. Did I think that I'd stay there 2 years? No. Invercargill's pretty remote in terms of New Zealand as a country. Population of about 50,000 people, so it's not like tiny, but it's classed as a city here in New Zealand, but not too many around the world. Very, very rural down there. It's farming communities. Not much really going on. Nothing goes there. You've got to travel out of Invercargill to go to concerts or see big sporting fixtures, that sort of thing.
I mean, you got the Remarkables. You got Great Mountains.
You remember well.
I remember well,
yeah. Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, Queenstown's an awesome spot where the Remarkable Mountain Range is, which you came and visited one time.
That's right.
Guided tour, clearly. You can recall that.
Just to remember, yeah.
So, I mean, it was a beautiful part of the New Zealand's a beautiful country. Down there, it's gorgeous. it gets a bad rap here. The weather's maybe not as good as the North Island. It's very cold in winter. But I really enjoyed my time there. I was so well looked after. People were very hospitable. Just a great community. However, when the opportunity came to move to Melbourne, I was ready for that at the time. Mm-hmm. It was a shame the band we'd grown the band right through. It had just been put up to grade 1, and then I got that opportunity. So it was a hard time to leave in terms of the band. But for me personally, I needed a new challenge. I think I needed just a different environment, and I was keen for a big city. So Melbourne really offered that, and
that's great. I we touched a little bit on it, and for those that don't know, we played together. I'm thankful for you having me in the core. I think I did 2 years. 1 year was Olaf was with us, but just awesome to be able to go down there. I was living in Australia 1 year, and then the second year I was in Europe. I was in France. Played with the band, and awesome opportunity. Like, it's just hands down one of the best memory of my life. But what was it like leading? You playing for a top band, and then all of a sudden you're in charge of a grade 3 band that you moved into grade 2, and then grade 1, isn't it? Like, in the space of 3 years. What was the biggest kind of challenge? Like, all of a sudden you have to write scores, adapt the style that they probably didn't have, or like your own style into it. You were teaching a lot of people, but it takes years before sort of all those people play your style. What was the biggest challenge at the time?
Yeah, good question. In terms of style, like, sort of reflecting back on what I was saying before, I kind of felt as when I moved out here and started to write my own material, I had a bit of I grew up in Burnt Island, which my tutor there at the time, Mark Gibson, after my grandfather taught me, I had Mark Gibson. He was influenced by Paul Turner. And then I moved to Boghall, Tom Brown, Gordon Brown
different style. Yeah.
And then I had Jim Kilpatrick, again, different style. So I felt like when I arrived here in Invercargill, I created my own sort of path, and I feel as though it was a combination of those 3 styles maybe coming together to form what my writing style then created. I think I'm probably more commonly would use or gravitate towards how Gordon would probably write. I think through my teenage years of playing, that's probably where I learned the most. So probably a combination of Gordon and Jim. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed coming up with my own teaching kind of program. And I used to use a lot of resources from that particularly from Tom. Tom had a lot of revision sheets, which were very helpful towards me in my teaching. And still to this day, I still use some of that. But I really enjoyed the challenge of creating my own program and starting from scratch. And just seeing where I could take students from here to, like some came right through into that grade 2 stroke grade 1 core that I never got the opportunity to take on, but some of those students that continue on through.
Yeah. Is it something that you still enjoy doing, like writing? I know you. So then you're touching into how you went to play for a band in Melbourne, teaching in Melbourne, but also playing for a band. You were leading the drum corps, right? Like, so it was. Did you feel like your style changed in like obviously, I imagine from the first few years that you were in Invercargill, and then to now, what would you say kind of like change in the way you? I remember the scores that we played in the band; they were very effective. It was definitely more Boghall style, but it was very effective and quite musical. But what would you say, sort of like changed in your style? Or your approach of writing.
Are you asking like in terms of moving to Melbourne here, my change from or just generally like?
Yeah, from like the Invercargill days to now, for example, and then having that stint in Melbourne.
Yeah, okay. I don't know that I can really put my finger on that because I think it's just something that probably evolves without actually taking much notice or consideration to it. I think the more I'm playing, the more I'm learning. As I write music now, 2007, 2009, I went back and played in Scotland with Scottish Power under Jake. So I learned heaps through that period as well, and just in terms of another style again, or learning under someone different. I think just through those different experiences, I feel for me anyway, because I do notice, like when I'm writing, I might use some different movements, some different phrases that I haven't used before, but I'm not necessarily thinking I want to use that because for any other reason that it's maybe just fresh in my mind.
Right.
So perhaps like my style is always evolving and continuously changing just based on where my drumming's at rather than where it was or what I used to do.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, totally. And so now you're touching that you are based in Christchurch, is it? Yeah. And then you're teaching full-time at the school. You're not actively playing, or are you actively playing with?
No, I am. So I'm teaching at St Andrew's College here in Christchurch, and just recently I've joined up with the Canterbury Cali Band here in New Zealand. So looking forward to heading out with them. Last year there was a bit of with COVID. I mean, I know that everyone in the pipe band scene has been affected by COVID and cancellations. We were actually pretty fortunate over here. We only had one season cancelled, which was last year. Wow. So things are ramping up right now. We've got competitions coming up in the next couple of months, building up towards the Nationals in March next year. So I'll be, all going well, I'll be out having a hit with Canterbury, as well as teaching the school band here.
Do you feel like you got poached? Like they were trying to get you in the core, like Jim was trying to get you in the core, or was it more like smooth?
Nah, nothing like it, man. It was one of the things that I felt very happy about moving here was it was the complete opposite. I decided to join the Canterbury band. There was no pressure whatsoever.
Right. Nice. That's awesome. And then I know we have a few minutes left, and I kind of want to wrap up on two things. One is, let's try to chat about something that is very different. And you mentioned you play golf every Friday afternoon. End of the day, end of the week, kind of celebrate. I have a funny memory about when I came down to New Zealand. I played with you guys, and I remember staying at you and Ali's place, and you had a darts. I think it was a darts in the living room. I think if I remember well, and you guys were just like flying the thing through the living room. Are you still doing darts? You were a keen darts player. I don't know why I remember that, but even in Glasgow, every time we'll go in the bar and you'll be like, some people go to the bar and order a pint. I felt like you would go to the darts and just shoot some darts. But are you still playing some darts?
I do. In the garage here, I've got the dartboard set up. That was one of the first things that got hung.
See, I knew it.
If I had it my way, the dartboard would be on this wall right beside me here, but Amy won't have it. So like you say though, when I lived with Ali, it wasn't a problem. We just put the dartboard up in the lounge and just came in from a band practice, shut the door and had a throw. We'd put the dinner on and while we're waiting for the dinner, have
I love it.
A couple of legs. Mate. I mean, that was just part of growing up for us back home. Like you go in the pub back home, you play pool, you play darts, you drink a pint. So it's probably less common in pubs over this way, unless you're in more of a country pub or more of a tavern type scenario.
Yeah.
But I don't play that much, to be perfectly honest. I play a lot more golf. Yeah, you're right. So not every Friday, but whenever I can on Friday.
Yeah, sorry, I have a job. We can't disclose everything, but yeah.
I mean, it's one of the beauties about the job here is it's very flexible in terms of our hours. You know, I control my own timetable. As long as I'm teaching all my students per week, doesn't matter when I teach them. Could be on the weekend, could be in the evenings.
Right.
I tend to try and stick to Monday to Friday normal sort of hours, apart from the Friday.
Some say they have a great work-life balance. You have a great work-golf balance. That's pretty good to hear.
Yeah. Well, like we said at the start of the call, you know, like my two main passions growing up as a kid were golf and drumming. So it's pretty cool to be able to hold on to that at 36 years old, and hopefully by the time I'm 60, I'll still be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, why not? That makes me think when we're talking about the pub. This is pretty embarrassing stories, but I don't know if you remember, and I know what I'm going to talk about. I'm even laughing just thinking about it. But for those listening, it was I think we were coming back from Belfast. It was like the whatever Euro competition or whatever major was over there, and I remember we took the boat. The bus. I think
it must have been 2012. In fact, I think that must have been what made us win the Worlds that year. The judges must have been the...
Probably, you know, judges were in there in the park bar. But I remember the bus because I would stay in Glasgow, you would stay in Glasgow with a few other people, and we would stop at the park bar. It was like just on the way back to Bathgate, and it was such a pain to grab the drum, grab the harness, and then I don't know why we said, you know what, let's go for one more pint. Let's do just one more pint. We went to the park bar, and it was a band playing. It was Sunday afternoon. Great session, great band playing. Just
Sundays were the best sessions in Glasgow.
I know, right? And then, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know what went through our mind, and we said, "Oh, probably we won," or I don't know what we were thinking, but we were like, Let's play the fanfare. Let's just play the fanfare in the park bar. And I think I lost my hand. I think I had no fingers at that point from just the weekend and probably hungover. But I think it was probably the best, funniest, but also worst fanfare I've ever played. And we were playing to the point that we probably didn't finish it. It was that funny. We probably
pretty much running off the stage.
And never show up to the park bar ever again. People were, it was so funny. Just being on stage halfway through, it's great. Tom Brown did a great job with fanfare. I just felt like we just ruined it on stage at the park bar. But it was just one of those memories that I haven't been back in a while. But probably step into the park bar and look at the stage and be like, this is when we had such a good drumming. It's quite fun.
Well, we should relive that moment. Maybe not the playing part, but we should, next time we catch up, let's try and make it the park bar, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I hope no judges were there and being like, damn, this Boghall drummer, pretty horrendous. But just to wrap up, you have a business going on in New Zealand. You're selling drumsticks and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything you want to promote? Kind of talk about what you are, what you're selling in the shop.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I've had my business now for the best part of 10 years plus. It started when I moved to Melbourne, so I brought it back here with me. I essentially sell pretty much all pipe band or all drumming product within pipe bands. Anything that anyone wants, I can get my hands on it for them. It's going great at the moment. Last year was a quiet year here in New Zealand, but even then, my business still ticked along just fine, and it's ramping up right now with the season in front of us. Lots of drum heads going out, lots of quotes, lots of people looking for new drums, and it's great. I love it. It's I personally enjoy the sort of sales, dealing with customers and experiencing their satisfaction of purchasing.
You write
product.
scores too, right? You sell stuff, but you also help teaching on the side.
That's right.
Write scores.
Yeah. So I've got a few private students that I teach weekly online, as well as offer school writing and workshops. It's all on my website, scottbirrellpercussion.com, pretty much there for anything drumming related.
Sweet.
So my business is obviously grown through Australia and New Zealand. Have customers from all over. With my time in Melbourne, still selling as far as Perth, Australia, all over New Zealand here. It's great.
Sweet, that's awesome. What's next for you? Obviously you got the new band, ton of scores to learn. The season coming up. But yeah, that's exciting.
We've as far as the school band here is concerned, we plan on hitting the Worlds next year in juvenile. It's 99% sure that we'll be taking our school band over. The only thing that's not a roadblock at all, but it's just we've got a lot of fundraising to do with fuel prices going up. They're extremely expensive in comparison to what we're used to. But we've got a good group of students and parents, supporters here. We'll ruffle together and make it happen, I'm sure. So if you're at the Worlds next year, I'll see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I know you have to go back to work. It's early in the morning for you, but thank you for taking the time to chat. I know we have good friendship over the years, so we definitely try to keep it not too inside jokes in our conversation. But thanks for taking the time to chat, and I'll be looking at videos online of the new band and see how you're doing. So
yeah, very welcome. Thanks for having me. Cheers, Glenn.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, likewise. Take it easy. Bye.
Cheers, Glenn. See ya.